My name is Kevin. I'm an office worker, but there's been a long-standing feud in my department. It's with my boss, Tom. Tom and I always seem to clash. Tom, I really think that approach is bound to fail. Let's plan this out properly, I said. Tom's work is always sloppy, and it causes trouble for the other employees. Everyone is too scared to stand up to the fearsome boss, but I'm the only one who speaks out. Shut it, Kevin. You're so annoying, Tom would say with an annoying sigh, often leading to a big argument. Today was no different, with Tom and I at odds again. What was unusual was that despite being lectured in front of the other employees, a humiliating situation, Tom kept smirking triumphantly. What's with that attitude? If you have a problem, just say it then, Tom said. It's because of your attitude that you're a failure as a husband. His smile was like that of a devil, as if he knew everything about my private life. Tom slightly covered his mouth and said, "Oops, can't say any more than that," before heading outside for a smoke. I couldn't stop thinking about what he said and immediately followed him. I have a wife named Emily, 2 years my junior, but our relationship hasn't been great lately. I called out to Tom, who was about to light a cigarette, and asked him what he meant by his words. Tom smirked, lit his cigarette, and after blowing out a cloud of smoke, he dropped a bombshell. Emily is going to remarry me. What? My hand trembled slightly. Tom said mockingly, "It doesn't matter to you anyway, right? You are planning to divorce her soon anyway, right?" It's true that things between Emily and me had been deteriorating, but I loved her. I had no intention of divorcing her. I wanted to work on mending our relationship. However, as if to dismiss my hopes, Tom said, "You're too full of yourself. That's why she's leaving you. Do you know what Emily says about you?" After tossing his cigarette butt into the ashtray, Tom whispered to me, "He's all talk." That's what she said. He then burst into laughter and said, "Your wife's the best," before heading back to the department. I was speechless and couldn't move for a while. I'm just a regular office worker working for an ordinary company in New York, and my romance with Emily started at work. We were in the same group during our new employee training, which led us to get along and eventually start dating. We smoothly progressed to marriage. Emily was very responsible. She even took the lead in our training group, and I admired her work attitude. When we married, Emily wanted to keep working, but I wanted her to stay home and take care of the family. So I told her, "I'll be the breadwinner," promising to provide for us. Then she said, "If we have children, I want to fulfill my role as a mother, so I'm thinking of quitting my job." After that, she resigned from the company and became a full-time housewife. But actually, that might have been the point when she started to change. The biggest issue between us was that we didn't have any children. Emily began to stress out, constantly blaming herself, saying, "Why did I quit my job if we can't have kids?" Whenever I tried to comfort her, she would push me away, yelling, "Don't touch me. You took my job away, and yet you just keep working at the same job. Bring home some promotion news for once." Her anger would escalate, leading us to have heated arguments. For over 6 months, Emily and I went through a rough patch, and during that time, she might have been secretly meeting with my boss, Tom. Apparently, she called me just all talk. Indeed, my mere promise of providing for us meant nothing if I couldn't fulfill it. I remember Tom always favored Emily, and they might have kept in touch even after I married her. Seizing the opportunity as our relationship soured, they probably started an affair. I wanted to confront Emily about everything. However, when I got home, her belongings were gone. The affair was a fact, and now it was thrust upon me. To have my wife taken by my nemesis boss was a humiliation beyond words. Nothing could have been more frustrating. Gradually, I couldn't stand working at the same company as Tom and decided to quit. It was one misfortune after another. "Why are you quitting, Kevin?" my colleagues would ask. I would just smile and say, "I'm moving on to a new job." None of them knew about my divorce or her affair with the boss. I couldn't possibly tell the truth. Maybe I should have sued for the affair, but all I wanted was to escape to a place where I didn't have to see Tom's face. Perhaps there was also a sense of guilt for not making Emily happy. Being alone in the house made me feel even heavier. The absence of Emily made our two-bedroom apartment feel even larger. Though I told my colleagues I was getting a new job, I had no motivation or plans for job hunting and was aimlessly wandering around. Suddenly, I found myself in the nightlife district. Maybe I should drink my sorrows away just for the night. Standing in front of a bar that caught my eye, I resolved to drink till morning in a fit of despair and reached for the door. At that moment, I heard a woman's voice saying, "Ah, there you are. I've missed you so much." Startled, I turned around to see an unfamiliar woman who then grabbed my arm and behaved as if we were a couple, leaving me in utter confusion. What?" The woman, still clinging to my arm, asked, "Where are we going tonight?" Who is this woman? However, I noticed her arm trembling slightly, and her smile seemed to mask fear. Something must be up. Thinking quickly, I played along. "Well, let's go to a place you like." When I said that, she slightly nodded and eagerly said, "Yay. Follow me, please." I followed her lead. She took me to a nightclub. Standing in front of the club, she sighed in relief. "Thank you for going along with my story. I managed to get through thanks to you," the woman thanked me. Her name was Ashley, an alias she used at the club. I was invited by Ashley. "Please come with me," she said and guided me to a seat. Once seated, she explained why she pretended to know me. "I've actually been stalked by a customer who kept insisting on an after-party. He's this awful old guy who would touch my butt and stuff. I always refused because who knows what he might do if I went with him." "I see. So you clung to me or any guy nearby because you felt in danger." "That's right. It was just awful, but I was saved because you were there. I really like dependable men," she said, placing her hand on my thigh. Ashley was a very beautiful woman, and just that was enough to make my heart race. Having been called unreliable by Emily and essentially discarded, her words had rebuilt my shattered male pride. "Let's enjoy the night," she said seductively with captivating eyes. Just then, a waiter came over and said, "Feel free to have a drink," offering us a menu. "Then I'll take you up on that offer," I said. As I was about to take the menu, an unexpected situation unfolded. "Excuse me," a woman suddenly intervened. "Hey, what's up, Sarah? I don't need help, Ashley. Please stop doing this." The woman Ashley called Sarah glared at her intensely. Then Ashley's demeanor changed abruptly. "What?" "Come with me." Sarah grabbed my arm and pulled me out of the club. As I was being dragged along, I couldn't help but think about how many times I was going to be grabbed by a woman today. "We should be safe here." "Sorry, Kevin." No, it's okay. I'm used to being dragged around." "Wait, how do you know my name?" "Don't you recognize me?" she asked, turning to face me. "Wait, I've seen her somewhere before." After staring at her for a while, I suddenly exclaimed, "Lily, is that you?" Lily was a junior from the company I had recently left. My impression of her was of a very serious and quiet woman who barely wore makeup. But now what about her? Her mascara was dramatically curled, and with bold cheek and lip makeup, she had completely transformed into a woman of the night. "You work here?" I asked, and Lily nodded. Sarah was her alias in the club. I knew the company allowed side jobs, but I never imagined she had this other side. When I saw you come to the club, I was surprised. But since you left the company recently, I thought it wouldn't be a problem to talk to you. I didn't want to see a former senior getting tricked. "What do you mean?" "That Ashley, she's been using some pretty nasty tactics to lure customers lately. Did she grab your arm and say, 'I missed you,' making up a story about being stalked by another customer?" Realizing she was right, I let out an involuntary gasp. Lily sighed as if troubled, just as I thought. It seemed I had almost fallen for a kind of theatrical scam. What a spectacle, in front of a junior no less. I'm so embarrassed. "Thanks for the help, Lily." "It's nothing, really. The club had its eye on Ashley's behavior anyway. I'll report your case to the manager." "That's a relief. Can I ask you something?" "What is it?" "Just curious, but why are you working at a place like this?" I was surprised but added, "You don't have to answer if you don't want to. I just wanted to drink until I pass out today. I feel lonely and wanted to hear someone's story. Feeling a bit pathetic for leaning on a junior, I braced myself and asked her. Lily seemed to ponder for a moment, then whispered, "It's Kevin, so I guess it would be fine." Then she said, "Okay, I understand," and began her story. "Actually, I'm being forced to work at that club, almost like it's against my will." "What?" "My mother is a bit of a mess. After she divorced my father, she went off the deep end, got involved in some weird religion, and racked up a huge debt. Now I'm the one trying to pay it off." "But that's your mother's debt, not yours, right?" Then Lily turned her face away. "I've always done whatever my mother told me to. She demanded money, so I just followed her orders." Lily shared that she grew up enduring violence from her mentally unwell mother, which made it hard for her to defy her. "I used to be a brighter girl, but ever since my mother changed, I've become shy and gloomy. I hate what I've become," she said. She, who was always expressionless, distorted her face only when saying these last words. It must have been a very difficult life, a life bound by her mother. Watching her, I strangely felt the urge to help. "Why don't you just run away from your mother?" I asked. Lily looked at me with surprise in her eyes. "But I've tried to run away so many times. But I'm scared. Her presence is just..." Her shoulders were trembling slightly. She might have been reliving unpleasant memories. I gently placed my hand on her shoulder. "Then let me help you talk to your mother." "Why would you go that far for me, Kevin?" she asked. I shrugged and gave her a smile. "I had divorced. You know about Emily, right? She was having an affair with Tom." "A divorce, really?" she asked. I said yes and tried to smile, but inside I felt like crying. "I ran away from that job. I had to escape. It's embarrassing and pathetic. But I ran and ran." I repeated the word ran and then said, "I'm trying to grab onto the next happiness." I surprised myself. Just moments ago I was in the depths of despair, but now I could say something so positive. It's okay to run from the past. Next time, you just need to find happiness in the future. It felt like I was telling myself more than Lily. "Right, I should also look forward," Lily said. The reason I wanted to help Lily was that I saw her in the same brink of despair as I was. When I looked up, our eyes met. Lily, with a slightly apologetic expression, asked, "Will you really help me?" "I definitely will," I replied, and later arranged to meet with her mother. A few days later, I went to Lily's family home and met her mother. "Could you please let your daughter go?" "Let her be free," I pleaded. But her mother yelled, "Don't stick your nose into other people's family matters. Your daughter is an excellent worker, but if she keeps juggling the day job and a night job, she'll break down eventually. Are you okay with that?" I found myself shouting. Still, her mother refused to listen and threatened, "If you say another word, I'll call the police." But then Lily, with tears welling up in her eyes, said, "Mom, please stop. I'm going to leave you, Mom." It seemed my words had given Lily the courage she needed. Despite her long-standing fear of her domineering mother, she now confronted her with all the frustration she had been holding back. It was an ordeal so terrible that I wondered if it was even appropriate for me, an outsider, to hear. The realization that her daughter was truly leaving must have struck her mother, who then pleaded, "Please don't abandon me." But Lily's resolve didn't waver, and finally she said goodbye, pulling my arm as we left the house. On the way home, Lily asked me, was this the right thing to do? It was good. Take some time away from her. You can meet her again later. For now, just take care of yourself, I said. As I said this, Lily seemed to find some resolution and showed me a smile for the first time, saying, "You're right. Let me treat you to something as a thank you next time." Her smile seemed to soothe my troubled heart. I never knew Lily's smile could be so lovely. I found myself gazing at her for a long while. From that day on, our relationship changed from former colleagues to companions who had shared tough experiences. Later, Lily and I started dating. She became brighter and more beautiful, always sharing smiles with me. Then one day, I ran into the most unexpected persons. It was my ex-wife Emily and my former boss Tom. "Wow, what's this? Are you two together now?" "That's quite a surprise," Tom said, looking astonished. switching his gaze between me and Lily. Emily, on the other hand, awkwardly averted her eyes from me. My heart almost stopped upon encountering these two, the very source of my trauma. I braced myself for what they might say, but surprisingly, it was Lily who started talking. "Tom, have you found a new job yet?" It was too late by the time Tom responded. "Hey, wait." Emily turned to him, demanding, "What do you mean, new job?" "That guy caused some problems at the workplace, so he's resigning at the end of this month as part of taking responsibility." "So good luck, Tom," Lily said, and then pulled my arm, saying, "Let's go." As we walked past them, I could hear Emily and Tom's loud argument from far away. Feeling a bit relieved, Lily grinned. "That was a little payback for the two who hurt you." Her dependable smile made me smile too. With Lily, I felt I could find happiness again. This incident made me sure of her love for me. Actually, in my room, I already have an engagement ring that I've purchased. I'm secretly planning to give it to her in the near future.
All right, everyone's presentations are done, Nick, the manager, said as he tried to move the discussion forward. Excuse me, I haven't. I recently found out something. Nick interrupted me and began to speak. There's apparently someone in this department who didn't graduate high school and is just a part-timer. Meetings should be for employees only. Absolutely right. His lackey, Mike, of course, agreed with Nick. I'm leaving. After leaving the meeting room, I started to shut down my computer. I noticed that an email had arrived, not in my personal inbox, but in the company's shared email. Thinking, there's no point in speaking up, no one will listen, I went home quietly. The next day, I heard a commotion from Nick's desk. He was staring at his computer screen, his face pale. Nick? Is something wrong? Mike looked at the screen with him. And he turned even paler than Nick. Why is he so angry? Knowing the reason for Mike's distress, I thought to myself, serves them right. My name is Adam. My mother passed away when I was in the 9th grade, and I was raised by my father. Well, you could hardly call it being raised. After my mother passed, my father changed. He drowned his sorrows in alcohol, and though he still went to work, he squandered our living expenses on horse racing. Because of that, I had to start working part-time as soon as I entered high school. Every month, I went to the convenience store with bills in hand that couldn't be auto-deducted from my father's account. Even though I endured it because I didn't want to be alone, I reached my limit in my second year of high school and dropped out. I found a live-in job at a distant inn. Thank you for everything. The day I left home, my father, still staring at the TV, spoke. Take care. That was our last conversation. Back then, 18 wasn't the age of majority, so I needed my father's permission to work, and I couldn't hide my place of employment. Yet, my father never visited me even once. I kept working just to survive, and before I knew it, I was 42. Years of hard work paid off, and I was transferred to the headquarters. I was thrilled to be recognized by the company, as I thought I'd be working in the field until retirement due to my lack of formal education. Listen up. Our work can change the future of our employees. Don't drag us down. On my first day after the transfer, Nick, dressed in an expensive suit, spoke sternly. There was a reason for this. Our inn was located in a prominent tourist destination, known so well that everyone in the state could sing its commercial jingle. At its peak, we had 5 locations within the state. But that was long ago. Due to financial difficulties and aging facilities, only the place where I had worked for many years and the original establishment remained. I was prepared to lose my job anytime, but now there was a glimmer of hope. With the rise of social media, the tourist area where the inn was located started gaining attention again. Depending on how hard the sales department, where I was transferred, worked, we could either thrive or be forced to give up this prime location to the new hotel chains continuously popping up. For Nick, who had switched careers from another industry to strengthen our sales, this was a battle he couldn't afford to lose. I understood why he had to be strict. I will do my best. Nick sneered at my enthusiastic declaration. Did you not hear what I said? I'm sorry. I thought I was listening carefully. Out of habit from years of customer service, I apologized reflexively, though I had no idea what had offended him. Someone was watching me with a smirk. In this department, There are those who are expected to excel and those who have been shoved here because they have nowhere else to go. You are the latter. It was Mike, the section chief. He's 7 years younger, at 35. But he was called to headquarters much earlier than I was and had been moving around within the headquarters ever since. I'm not jealous, but I can't accept that he's my boss. Graduating from a prestigious university, he has an unusually high pride and caused many problems as a newbie, making things very difficult for me when I was the front desk leader. When I found out Mike was transferred to the sales department a month before me, I was disheartened. Mike is right. With just a middle school diploma, there's not much you can do. Don't even think about achieving results. As if I didn't exist, Nick remarked, I'm thirsty. Mike eagerly ran to the coffee maker. It seems Mike is Nick's lackey. I regretted being happy about my transfer to headquarters, wishing I had stayed on site forever. Send a direct mail to every company on this list by the end of the day. Nick only assigned me tasks that even a new graduate could handle. What? There are over 1,000 companies. You want me to send to all of them by today? Yes, if you and your fellow misfits split the work, even those with nowhere else to go should finish by today. I glanced at the employees typing away expressionlessly. They were worn out from customer service, only thinking about leaving on time, or were women reassigned after having children, with zero motivation for work. Even Sam, a new graduate from the same university as Mike, who was supposed to be among the expected achievers, had no enthusiasm for the job, having joined the company wanting to do customer service. I don't care what they say, I plan to quit anytime, he said. Only Nick and Mike were highly motivated, making all the decisions between the two of them. I originally only wanted to work at the inn to survive and had no particular attachment to this job. I swallowed my words, thinking I had no right to reprimand them. About a month after the transfer, Nick told us with a frustrated look. To commemorate the 50th anniversary, we've decided to create a plan exclusive for one group per day. Originally, Mike and I were supposed to come up with it, but our president, Mr. Thompson, insists on hearing everyone's opinions. So, you all get a chance. As Nick explained, Mike began handing out prints. Make sure not to embarrass Nick. If your ideas are half-baked, you'll have to redo them. It seemed that they had printed his handwritten notes by Mr. Thompson, which included several questions and a section for free responses. It made sense why Nick had to seek our input, given that all responses had to be submitted to Mr. Thompson. We were given a week to think about it, and a meeting was scheduled to compile our ideas. My plan is to let guests enjoy both the old and modern America. Nick began the presentations. Guests would watch a master confectioner at a nearby traditional sweet shop make sweets in front of them. The welcome drink would be premium tea in a bottle. Nick's plan was certainly attractive. After his presentation, Nick called on us to present in the order we were seated. Just as I stood up for my turn. All right, everyone's presentations are done. Excuse me, I haven't. I recently found out something. Nick interrupted me. There's someone in this department who didn't graduate high school and is just a part-timer. He was likely talking about me. I joined the company as a part-timer and was made a full-time employee when I turned 20. That was 20 years ago, so Nick and Mike probably had no chance to know until recently. Meetings should be for employees only. Absolutely right. After that, Nick kept creating opportunities to solicit everyone's opinions, purposefully excluding me from speaking. The meeting unexpectedly heated up and went past the scheduled end time. A few people asked to leave, and the discussion continued with the remaining few. Still here? Normally, you'd leave in that situation. Though I had no attachment to the job initially, hearing kind words from customers made me want to make them happier. For someone like me, with nowhere to go, the inn was my home and customer service was my life. I felt pathetic about my current self. I'm leaving. I left the conference room and started shutting down my computer. I noticed an email had arrived, not in my personal inbox, but in the company's shared email. Thinking no one would listen to what I had to say anyway, I quietly went home. The next day, while preparing the DM as instructed, I heard a commotion from Nick's desk. In his haste to stand up, he hit his knee on the desk. He stared at his computer screen, his face pale. Nick! What's wrong? Mike, thinking he should be the first to rush over, approached Nick while still wearing his coat. He peered at the screen with Nick. And he turned even paler than Nick. Why is he so angry? Who is responsible for this company? Nick, more irritated than ever, asked, and Mike answered without checking. Probably Sam. Sam wasn't there because he was attending a morning training session for new hires. Nick gave up on getting angry and returned his gaze to the screen. They were looking at an email that arrived right after the end of the working day yesterday. Apparently, no one, including me, had checked it before leaving. The email was from a large company that used us for their annual employee trips. The president and executives of that company also frequently used our services personally. President of the company, Mr. Mason himself, had declared that neither he nor his company would ever use our services again. Well, some companies cancel their employee trips or stop using our services due to financial struggles. Let's just move on. Mike kept wiping the sweat from his forehead with a handkerchief. Knowing why Mike was so agitated, I quietly watched their interaction. Do you know how much revenue we get from that company? We can find other guests to fill the rooms, but we'll lose the banquet costs, gift shop revenue, rental car fees, and more. Moreover, the gifts were supposed to be prepared by the traditional confectionery shop involved in Nick's proposed plan. If it's known that we incurred such a huge loss at this critical time, Nick's position in the company would be jeopardized. Nick took a deep breath, seemingly trying to calm himself. All right, Mike. Go to New York right now and apologize to Mr. Mason. What? You're coming with me, right? I have urgent work to do. I trust you, which is why I'm entrusting this to you. Please. Mike, believing Nick's sincerity, agreed with a determined look on his face, saying, yes. That's Nick for you. Even if Mike went to apologize, Nick would shift all the blame onto him if the client didn't change their mind. Well, it was Mike's fault to begin with, so it served him right. About 3 hours later, Sam answered a call from somewhere and repeatedly apologized, saying, I'm very sorry. Everyone watched to see what was happening. After ending the call, he informed Nick with a weary tone. When Mike arrived at the client's company, he only made things worse, further infuriating Mr. Mason. He was demanding, get his boss here immediately. It was no wonder Sam was exhausted, dealing with such a call right after returning from training. What is that idiot doing? All right, Adam, you're coming with me. If sacrificing Mike didn't work, then I must be next. Normally, I'd want to refuse at all costs, but I saw an opportunity in this situation. If I can be of assistance, I'd be happy to join you. I obediently followed Nick, and we flew to New York. When we introduced ourselves at the reception, it became clear how serious the situation was, as the receptionist personally escorted us to the president's office. Angry voices leaked through the door, making both Nick and me uneasy. Excuse me. I'm Nick, the supervisor. I understand my subordinate has caused you trouble, and I deeply apologize. Nick, with his experience in the corporate world, knew enough to offer an apology before excuses. However, his customer service skills left much to be desired. I sighed as I saw Mike trembling like a small dog in the corner of the room. What kind of training are you giving your subordinates? Mr. Mason glared at Nick with a red face. The intensity of his gaze made even Nick take a step back. Regrettably, I joined this company only 2 years ago and was unaware of Mike's issues. I should have identified his shortcomings sooner. Indeed. I should have realized sooner. No sensible person would come to apologize and then give a lengthy presentation on the drawbacks of not using their in. Nick froze, his mouth slightly open. Suspecting the worst, I picked up the documents that had fallen to the floor. It seemed Mike hastily prepared these documents on the plane, listing the disadvantages. Disadvantage 1: if you change the venue for the company trip, employees might suspect it's for cost-cutting reasons, leading to a negative impression. Reading it aloud half-jokingly, Nick snatched the papers from my hand and checked the contents with a furious expression. Among the stack of documents was a receipt from a nearby convenience store's copy machine. I felt a pang of dread, hoping he hadn't shown the receipt as well. What do you think he said when I asked what kind of nerve he had to do this? I'm very sorry. Faced with the dire situation, Nick must have thought there was nothing left to do but apologize. In a voice smaller than I'd ever heard from him, he uttered words of apology. He said, "I'm a Harvard graduate. I don't believe I said anything wrong." "Mike! What have you done?" Forgetting his plan to pin the blame on Mike, Nick yelled loudly, even in front of Mr. Mason. "I didn't do anything wrong." "You're still saying that?" "Look at him." Mike pointed at me with a shaking hand. "I was assigned to headquarters in my 20s and now I'm a section chief. This guy only made it to headquarters at 42. Everything I've done proves I was right. So why are we losing the contract?" Having said his piece, Mike collapsed to the floor. "Of course. You were sent there because you had nowhere else to go." Mike never expected to hear such words from someone he looked down upon. He lunged at me, and Nick hurriedly stepped in to stop him. "Mr. Thompson told me Mike is a quick thinker, and to take good care of him." There's no way he was pushed aside. "Don't make things worse here." "He didn't say quick thinker, he said only quick-witted, didn't he?" I don't remember that part." I recalled the many troubles Mike caused when he was a newbie. When Mike was on the front line, his pride was so high that he never apologized to customers. Customer service, especially in our job, doesn't work alone. It brings both good and bad situations. If the front staff or housekeepers made mistakes, or the cleaning company didn't properly clean a room, one had to apologize to the customers regardless of personal fault. Mike, in such situations, would never apologize, insisting he wasn't at fault. This often angered customers, and as the front desk leader, I frequently had to apologize on his behalf. He caused complaints and disrupted operations, which is why he was quickly moved to headquarters. In departments where he didn't interact directly with customers, his quick thinking was beneficial and things went well. But it seemed his flaws were starting to show. Corporate reservations are supposed to be entered into the system by the sales representative. But a quick check yesterday revealed that more than 10 items were missing from the client's reservation. The handover document clearly stated what needed to be prepared. Why didn't you enter it into the system? Why do we have to give them special treatment? Filling rooms near the banquet hall, setting up all the food in advance. Specifying the brand of wine, they're too demanding. No wonder he always angered customers, I thought, feeling a headache coming on. Grouping them in rooms near the banquet hall is for our benefit too. It makes it easier for the staff to set up beds and serve breakfast since everyone's schedule is synchronized. As for the other requests, Mr. Mason suggested them to lighten our load. I didn't know that. Nick finally seemed to realize that Mike was the one who had angered the client. What did you say to them? I just told them we wouldn't give them special treatment anymore. We shouldn't waste effort on things that don't bring in money. I was utterly exasperated at his lack of understanding of customer service. Of course, we shouldn't comply with unreasonable demands. But carrying over successful practices from past stays makes customers feel remembered and enhances their experience. Good memories encourage repeat visits. That's part of our job. I looked down at Mike, who was sitting on the floor. In our job, nothing is a waste. Mr. Thompson likely moved you to the sales department, hoping you'd finally understand this. How do you think he feels now that you've failed to meet his expectations? Mike, tears in his eyes, fled the president's office. I was amazed he still hadn't apologized. You have it tough, Adam. It's okay, we're all employees of the same company. I deeply apologize for this disrespectful incident. Especially after all the care you've shown us. If it weren't for you, Adam, I really would have stopped staying here. When I heard you were moving to the sales department, I was willing to reconsider if you handled it. Seeing us talk so amicably, Nick's face contorted. Do you two know each other? Adam's service is excellent. I always requested him specifically. Normally, we don't accept specific staff requests, but we made an exception for Mr. Mason, adjusting my shifts accordingly. He had personally stayed at our hotel just before my transfer, and during casual conversation, I mentioned, I'm moving to the sales department soon. If I hadn't told him then, things could have been much worse. Please continue to take care of us. I look forward to it. On the return flight, Nick awkwardly offered me a can of beer. It's still working hours. Of course, I had no intention of forgiving him for a single beer. Nick might try to pin everything on Mike and avoid any consequences. While pondering this, a startling fact came to light. Nick, the tea bottles for the plan have arrived. I handed Nick a bottle labeled with our inn's name. They look good. What are you talking about? These are plastic bottles. I had assumed we would use the trendy, high-end bottling tea. But what arrived were ordinary plastic bottles of tea with customized labels. The only unique aspect was the label, which had the inn's name, making it look customized. Upon further investigation, I discovered that a substantial amount of money was set to be paid to the tea company. It was priced like bottling tea. Does this plastic bottle really cost $100 each? The tea inside is specially blended for us. The extra cost is for that. Wouldn't it be better to use another tea company? Or is there a specific reason we must use this one? As Nick continued to make excuses, I showed him a printed email. I informed the tea company's president, Mr. Mitchell, that we discovered irregular payments and he confessed. He said you two were high school classmates and planned to split the extra money. That idiot. Why did he confess? That's not important. You should worry about yourself, this could turn into a police matter. Opening the bottle cap, I suggested. How about calming down with this tea? It supposedly has a relaxing effect. Nick drank the tea frantically. In the following days, decisions were made about their fates. Mike was reassigned to the General Affairs Department, with no chance of transfer or promotion, as per Mr. Thompson's orders. As for Nick, since the payment to the tea company hadn't yet been made, he narrowly avoided legal trouble. Instead, he was encouraged to leave the company, and to avoid further complications, Nick submitted his resignation. Rumor has it that connections between HR departments have made it difficult for him to find new employment. Even though it was good to have those two gone, something unexpected happened in the sales department. Everyone became motivated and united in refining the 50th anniversary plan. In the end, my plan was adopted. We collaborated with the Tourist Information Center to provide personalized guides. The plan, tailored to the number of guests, was truly special for the 50th anniversary. Hey, is Adam's family coming to stay? I immediately booked that special plan for my family. Sam noticed it on the reservation list and quickly picked up on it. Yes, I'm inviting my father. That's great. I might invite my parents too. I lacked the courage to face my father just as Adam. But here, with the confidence Mr. Mason praised, I felt ready. The 50th anniversary plan was a perfect opportunity to reconnect with my father. I hoped to bring back the days when we could laugh together as we once did.